Alright, good morning. This is a topic which will be covered in the final term. This will cover about the entry and exit of entrepreneurs, probability of entry and exit of entrepreneurs. This will be followed by not only entry and exit, but it also follows about success and survival of entrepreneurship. Then the last part of the final term would be uh, what is it all about risk taking, no? How do we measure risk taking, and what are the aspiration and goals of entrepreneurs? So this video lecture today will be all about uh, cross-sectional, okay, cross-sectional meta-analytic and longitudinal studies pertaining to the entry and exit of entrepreneurship. Okay, so there are things that we have to clarify first before we proceed, no? What is the difference between the three methodology? Cross-sectional studies are studies that is undertaking at a single point in time, no? Single shot, muna gitawag na tog single shot study. That is cross-sectional study. Another is longitudinal studies. Longitudinal studies are undertaken we usually at different periods of time. That is why it's called longitudinal, because we will investigate and observe changes of the variables of the entrepreneurial variables in this case as they behave over time. That is why it's called longitudinal studies. Meta-analysis is a compilation of either cross-sectional and longitudinal studies, no? These are separate studies compiled, okay, separate studies, but they are similar in themes and context. Maura ang ilang bapalugar topic, no? That is why it's called meta-analysis, because compilation malanggod ni siya sa separate studies, however similar, no? Similar nga mga study. So meta-analysis. There is another study nga gitawag nimong panel study, no? Panel study. This involves uh, more or less this panel studies are, as we shall see later, there are several panel studies applied in this particular researches that I'm going to discuss with you today, this morning. Panel studies are studies that are based on either its qualitative and quantitative measurements, no? For example, panel studies about, let's say, year, gender, and other socio-demographic characteristics, and their quantitative measurements are not of important, no? Dili kay importante. So gitawag na siya og mga panel study. We can also quantify panel studies, but a different kind. Like for example, we can use complete table of enumeration, no? Mga ngana. Pero what is common studies that are applied in research kaniging tulo, no? Cross-sectional, meta-analysis, and longitudinal studies. Another word of caution is that much of the studies that I'm going to discuss with you are in correlation type. Okay, caveat, no? Gentle reminder. Correlation does not mean causation, no? Does not mean causation. What do I mean by that? Well, correlation is simply an investigation of the relationship between variables, okay? Whether investigation of relationship of variables, irrespective of whether or not uh, one variable actually causes the other variable. For example, if I want to if I want to relate y variable to x. Alright? So, let's say, ito ba, example na to magamit. For example, is there an association or relationship between height and intelligence? No? Tanda lang, height sa tao o ang intelligence. Then, if our theoretical framework is weak, no, kulang ta og mga theories or kulang ta mga previous studies saying nga ang height explain intelligence, then dili ginato magamit ang correlation, no? Dili nato magamit ang correlation kay kulang man tag theoretical foundation, kulang tag theoretical framework. So probably ang atong gamiton gid ana is dili regression, kun dili atong gamiton is correlation. We just want to know whether or not ang intelligence ba, no, irrespective of whether it causes intelligence o gusto lang ta masayod kung unsa bagid ilang degree of associationship, that is correlation, no? Muna siyang gitawag ni correlation. Causation is usually conducted using regression analysis, no? Regression. While ang correlation mo gamit ang Pearson product, no? Pearson correlation moment atong gagamiton ana. So irrespective of whether one causes the other, atong gagamiton gid na is correlation, no? Correlation. While if we want to determine whether y causes x, we are concerned of the causative or causation, no? Causation type of study. No? So that is one thing, no? That is one thing. All right. Let me begin with several or few studies, no, about what's the relationship between the big five personality traits in terms of entrepreneurial entry, no? Entrepreneurial entry. Entrepreneurial entry, based on my readings here, is based on what's the intention of the population being studied regarding entrepreneurship. So, unsa ilang mga future intention, no? Whether they are planning to become an entrepreneur, or whether they are budding entrepreneur, or they're already entrepreneur, etc., etc., no? So one study, this is actually a study of 342 students, no? 342 students by Saint and Dinobli in 2005. Okay? He wanted to determine if entrepreneurship intention, if the big five personality traits, what are those big five? You have openness, you have uh, conscientiousness, you have extraversion, and we have agreeableness and neuroticism. We want to find out where or which of these particular traits uh, is correlated to entrepreneurial intention, no, perceived capacity, and personal investment. And then these are the findings, no? These are the findings. We find that openness to experience, the positive sign here is positively correlated. That means openness to experience positively predict, no, the respondents or participant perceive ability, sa ilang abilidad. Perceive means sa ilang bana-bana, perceive sa ilang perception. Kung unsa ilang perceive ability, unsa pod ang ilang personal investment. Personal investment, this would account about their personal source of capital. That is one example. Another is personal investment would be in terms of probably mental and intellectual, no? Intellectual capacity. So in other words, openness to experience positively predict the participants' ability and personal investment. Okay? The rest of the big five is not correlated, no? Dili correlated. Dili siya correlated aning interpretation, intention, capacity, and personal investment. And then the study of these two authors actually also found that neuroticism, that is the characteristic of being conservative, no, characteristic of being anxious, no, or feeling of pessimism, no, is negatively correlated with intention and ability. Okay, so these are the findings. Siguro kung neurotic kay ka, no, dili kay ka, wala kay self-efficacy, kulang ka og gitawag nimog locus of control, you associate all your failures and even success to the external factors, would negatively explain what you can do, no, and even your intention, no, your ability and your intention. Right, so eh, these findings actually tells us some element of truth ba, kay kung neurotic ka may wa gini nga dili kasalig sa imong abilidad, wala kay salig sa imong kaugalingon, no, kulang kag ability. So kay negative man siya, the higher is being neurotic, the greater also, the lesser is your ability and intention to future, no, entrepreneurial career. So kulang ka ani, kulang po kag chance nga mahimong entrepreneur, no. Right? And then another is findings number 2 by these two authors. If you apply daw, kung i-apply nato ni siya sa ano, if you apply this to founding, no, mga business founders, no, katong yung naanay ni ginegosyo, na lagi sila itawag nimo business enterprise. The study found out that there is no significant difference between founder ka ba or manager ka ba. No, walay diferensya sa duha. When it comes to the big five, when it comes to the big five personality traits. All right? No significant difference. So, siguro ang mga business founders and leaders somehow exhibit similarity, no, in terms of big five as they relate to, no, as they relate to future entrepreneurial intentions, no? Right? So another study also found out there, this is the study by Xiao et al, no, they studied about the relationship between the big five and intention, including performance sa ilang negosyo. Right? So what are the findings? The findings show that openness to experience, awareness. I do not know, wala man tayo awareness sa big five. Pero anyway, this is included man. Included, no? Being awareness. Okay, awareness. Extraversion, emotional stability, and risk propensity, no? Risk propensity is actually your ability to tolerate ba di mong risk, no? Nakita na to nga they are positively associated with entrepreneurial intention, no? Positively correlated or positively related or positively associated with entrepreneurial intention, no? So if we scale entrepreneurial intention from being already an entrepreneur or budding entrepreneur or potential entrepreneur o katong dili gid mag-entrepreneur mo lugar na atong scale of ordinal arrangement, makita na to nga the higher positive man gud siya, no, it's positive. So therefore, if it is positive, the higher is openness, no, the higher is openness, extraversion, mo higher po daw natong entrepreneurial intention, no. So kini nga study, although gamay ra kay ni siya nga ano, this involves about siguro pilar na yang sample size ani, but there is some element of truth. If only other studies can prove that this is correct, then this probably would confirm, no, and probably would become a theory or an important law in the future. However, ang agreeableness of neuroticism does not, no, The circle with a horizontal line means there is no significant relationship. So being agreeable at the same time being neurotic, okay, does not explain, no, the entrepreneurial intention. Okay, so that is what we mean here. And what is possible? What is possible? Ano? What is the possible explanation to this? Well, being agreeable kana bitong being kuan ka, no, understanding ka sa imong to the other parties, to other person, or being not only understanding, being nang gitawag nimo og being patient, for example, is another example of being agreeable. Or kanang gitawag nimo og always giving in, no, mo give up ka sa imong mga personal agenda for the sake of other people. So muna agreeable. uh, Siguro is not a typical, no, dili na siya typical nga trait nga gikinahanglan gid sa entrepreneurship, no, kanang being agreeable. Kay sa entrepreneurship probably, no, requires people who are always looking for their individual benefit rather samok basig pag-uboy, rather than sa benefit sa uban, no. They are not concerned, no, wala mo tawag nimo nag selfish sa ilang concern rather than sa ilang self concern kaysa uban nga concern. So that is one, ano, neuroticism siguro. If you are afraid or being anxious all the time of what happened after deciding a particular venture, of course that is positive. No, that would not explain, no, whether or not there is a relationship to entrepreneurial intention. At any rate, mo na ang findings sa study, no. We cannot say with finality nga this is wrong, no. This is wrong. We cannot say that, no. So this is just the findings. Okay? So mo nang findings ni Xiao et al. In 2010. Then let me explain you. This is more or less comprehensive study. This was conducted by Koronka in 2005. He conducted about 1,169 nascent entrepreneurs. Nascent means kanang bag-o lang, no? Bag-o lang nahimong entrepreneur. Okay? In relation to entrepreneurial action pattern. So gita-studyhan nila unsa mga pattern sa entrepreneurial behavior in relation sa big 5 personality traits. And what are the findings? These are the findings. Of the 1,169, 153 who are successful, no? Katong successful na gyud, na sila'y higher, no? Na sila'y high need for achievement. No? Na sila'y high need for achievement kani. Need for achievement, taas po sila internal locus of control. At the same time, naa sila'y medium risk propensity, no? They are they can tolerate risk, no, at the medium term, no? The medium, moderately, no. Medium means probably moderate, no. They can tolerate moderate risk. So people with high need for achievement, no, taas silang ambisyon, taas po silang control sa ilang life, no, life experiences, dayon they can tolerate risk, no, are actually explain unsa ilang mga entrepreneurial motivation, unsa ilang mga entrepreneurial expectation and entrepreneurial goals. Okay, right? So mo ni siya, no. And then kani successful entrepreneur naman ni, no, sa entrepreneur naman gina sila. The other katong mga bag-o nga mga entrepreneurs, quite the same, no. They have a high need for achievement. They have low need for achievement, no, katong mga nascent. They have also low internal locus of control. At the same time, they also have Law initiative, no? Unsa ba nang initiative? From the word initiate, no? Himo gyud himuon. Posible man nga innovative ka nga tao, pero kulang kag kuan, no? You lack the ability to uh, you, you lack the ability to initiate or to start off the decision to start implement, no? Maglisod kag implement, maglisod kag sugod, okay, na kay law initiative, right? So this is the findings. So kung i-compare nimo ang successful, i-compare nimo sa mga nascent entrepreneur, there is a big difference. Why? Ang katong mga successful entrepreneur na agad sila taas kay nga need achievement. Contrast dito sa mga nascent, no? Gamay ilang need for achievement, gamay po ilang internal locus of control. Ang kini mga potential di pag gina sila entrepreneur, no? Dili gina sila entrepreneur. Have although na sila taas og realization about themselves, no? Na sila self realization. Mga kuan naman guni sila, no? Dili man guni sila kaayo si tawag ni mo ani, dili kay ni sila faced with dili man sila entrepreneur, dili kay sila ga encounter og risk. So precisely of that reason they have high self-realization because they are not they are not troubled so much, no? They are not uh, apprehensive about what's going to happen because they are not yet entrepreneur, no? So they have high self-realization. They also have high internal locus of control. Probably kung o dili ka negosyante, taas kang self-realization. Amot sa meaning na self-realization and self-realization, right? Okay, right. Another is katong networking, no? Katong gasugod-sugod pa lang pero dili pa gid sila entrepreneur, no? Muna mga budding entrepreneurs. Okay? These people, no? These people need environmental support. Na tinanan sila support sa resources. However, they also have higher level of risk avoidance, no? Naalaw sila sa mga risk. Naalaw sila sa mga risk. Alright? So, networking of budding entrepreneurs, no? Meaning ana is, sa meaning ana, gasugod-sugod pa lang ni sila establish, no? Kana bitong sa itawag ni muna sa Binisaya, nagsugod-sugod pa ni sila pamuhunan, no? Namuhunan pa, no? Namuhunan, puhon, no? O puhon, no? So, muna kung buhaton karon, muna siyang network of budding entrepreneurs. Kini sila na kinahanglan og strong support environmentally. Kinahanglan po sila strong resources kay wala pa mo gini sila magsugod, no? And these people also high level of risk avoidance kaya ga-avoid sila risk. Ga-avoid sila risk. It follows ba yan, no? I mean, it's obvious. This is very common to many of us. Nga sugod pa gani ka, di pagikay ka, dili pagikay ka, no? Di pagikay sigurado. So, you tend to avoid risk. Alright? Okay, now, another, again, no? By the way, kini nga mga authors, by the way, known ni sila sa entrepreneurial studies, no? Kani nga mga balik-balik naman lang ni sila. They're known about entrepreneurial studies. And by the way, ang akong sources ani nga mga literature are taken from Harvard University. So, which is 2017. In other words, medyo kini akong sources diri akong gi-present sa inyo, medyo latest gini siya and authoritative, no? Authoritative. Now, Xiao et al. In 2005 conducted a study of 265 Masters in Business in Administration in United States universities. Okay? So, gistadihan yan ng mga By the way, kung mag-master in business administration ka din sa Pilipinas or MBA, no, maglisod ka dito sa Amerika, sayo na din sa Pilipinas siguro. Diploma mill man atong ba niya itong nasod nga na man na siya eh. Sayon raman kay human o kurso. Pero ato kag Amerika kanang MBA, di na basta. Kay maghimo man kag feasibility study or thesis and it will take time, no? So, findings, what are the findings? ESE. Okay, unsa nang ESE? ESE is entrepreneurial self-efficacy. Okay, specific situation ni siya, no? Specific to entrepreneurial action. So, EC has been found by these studies to be positively associated with intention. So, kung taas kag self-efficacy, taas po kag intention nga mag-entrepreneur. No? Positive man siya. Positive. And then the same study also found out nga ang mga moderating variables include your experience, no? Imong learning, no? Sa imong learning, imong erudition, imong real learning o ang imong ability to take risk. Okay? So, muna siya ang mga moderating variables. So, if you have the relationship between AC and entrepreneurial intention, rival explanatory variable are learning, experience, and risk, no? Risk tolerance, or risk propensity. Right? And then another study, follow-up study, may Miao, no, et al, no? Miao et al in 2016 confirm nga ang entrepreneurial self-efficacy positively explain entrepreneurial intention. So na-confirm na siya, no, duha ka study, di ba? So, duha ka study. Na-confirm niyang study ni Xiao et al. Okay, by Miao et al. So okay, partly we can based on these findings, no, kani siya nga mga findings based man gud siya sa exit and entry, no? Exit and entry. Partly makita nimo nga individuals with high openness to experience, also high in internal control, and also have moderate risk propensity are likely, may gana kag likely, are probably, no, have future in entrepreneurial career. No? Na sila future in entrepreneurship. So, kato nga mga study akong gi-mention a while ago, muto siyang mga studies nga na fall under cross-sectional, no, studies that are undertaken at a single point in time combined with metaphysical analytical studies, no, gibasihan sa literature ba, metaphysical. Alright, so muna atong partial, no, partial na to ang conclusion nga ang mga tao nga naitaas og openness to experience, taas pong internal locus of control, unya na sila tolerance sa risk, no, dili siya high, no, moderate lang, are likely to have future entrepreneurial career. Okay, now let's talk about longitudinal studies, no. So ganitong longitudinal studies, studies that are undertaken over a period of time. For example, nag-study ka usa ka sample, let's say you have 200 students imong gi-studyhan. Imo siyang go-obserbahan, let's say from the period 2020 taingon sa 2025. So with a period of 5 years, imo sila maobserbahan unsa ilang mga changes with respect to entrepreneurial intention. Unsa na ilang mga intention, gusto pa ba sila mag-entrepreneur o gusto na ba sila mohawa, gusto na ba lang sila mag-empleyado, things like that, no. longitudinal studies. Now, this is longitudinal studies by Hansi Mark in 2003. He studied the Swiss students, no, for 11 years, no. Can you imagine 11 years? Tiguwang naman gaan. Nagsugo kag batan-on pagkahuman sa imong study 11 years. Tiguwang na ka, no, kuya ko na yung study, no. And then he combined this study with psychological data from register of new business enterprise. Alright, so siguro gimatch niya ba? Gimatch niya ni nga mga estudyante kung unsa na sila after 11 years. So by simply looking at the register of new enterprise, and then this was the findings, no? These were the findings. Number one, locus of control predicts the entry to entrepreneurship para lang sa lalaki. Pero dili sa babae. Unique sa to pa. Kung mayroon kang entrepreneurship, kulang iday-day ang babae, no? Kay kulang sila locus of control. Sakto ba na, no? Locus of control, the ability to control yourself based on your skills, based on your ability, no? That you can actually make it, no? That you can be successful all by yourself, not by external factors. Siguro mas taas ang lalaki og locus of control, no? Only for men but not for women. Okay? However, whether the men or women, wala na siya significant difference when it comes to the need for achievement. They only differ in the locus of control but not in the need for achievement. Right? So, can you explain this? Nganong ingani na siya? Maka-explain man ta, pero dili pa kita ka-explain totally kay dili man ni siya complete nga variables. Actually, dili ni siya complete eh. Dili ni siya complete. These are just based on research constructs, and yet there are many things that happen in our lives that are beyond what we have constructed, no? Beyond our variables selected. So mo ni siya, no? Need for achievement. Siguro ang babae sa maragya po sa lalaki when it comes to need for achievement, no? Need for achievement. In other words, they are the same. Karunka et al. In 2003, he studied about 277 Austrian business founders, no? In other words, kay founders man, mga entrepreneurs na ni siya. 277 Austrian founders. And these are the findings, no? Need for achievement, locus of control, and risk propensity. So, parehas sa ito na-discuss earlier ago, no? Earlier. Predict positively early success, no? Sa venture nato, no? Business venture. Early success of business venture, but not in the long-term survival of the business. So, positively correlated, pero sa early success. Bibi, kwasa. Hello? Hello, sir. Good morning. Monetary ka namin. Nanay, akong gibutang diha nga kuan. Ginakuha na nimo. Oo, sir. Atong topic na interest rate and inflation rate marketing. Oo. Kada na. Study na kay mo na itong final exam. Dili kana ra kuan pun eh. Dayon pag-open og kuan, pag-open og internet, tan-awa day na siya nga similar ana nga topic. Nakita naman akong video, sir. Nakita niyo yung video? Dayon. At the end na yun, magtaganon, mag-aatag na siya na mag-aatag na assignment? Kasa na siya, mag-aatag na ko question ni mo anak kung humanan niya akong klase. Dili na. Ayaw na tong kwan. Kay, ako nabasa tong question bitaw, katabi tong the last 5 questions. Mura mag theoretical kayo, dili kay ko kakuan ato, dili kay ko ka, wala ko'y believe kay atong mga questions ba. So, katurang first 3 set of questions, mura tong arang-arang tong nga ansiran. Ayun na. Ayun na. Ang kanilang kuan, kana lang akong gipadala nga video kay maghatag ko final exam sa imo na. Dayon sir, kalang ko sana lang ko sir ba. Semi-final exam, pag semi-final exam matagal. Oh, kana lagi kuan kanang interest rate o inflation rate. Ha? Mo lagi ni siya nga topic semi-final. Napa may akong iduga. Oh, muna atong semi-final. Maghatag pa ko ana og final. Oo. Dili. Katong imo gihatag mo na tong semi-final kana siya para na siya sa final. Lagi sir, nag-ipon na ko ang semi-final sir. Katong imong gi-submit. Oo. Ako nang gi-save. Pa na ko basaha, ako nang gi-save. Ayun na kato na mo na to imong gi-email nimo, tong gi-email nimo sa akong kwan. Mo na to. Sige, basahan na dayon. Tanawa ang internet unsay pareha related na lang nga topic ha. Okay. Okay. Bye-bye. Alright. So, sorry kay nagkuan ta. Okay. So, mo ni siya no. Okay, karon ka found that need for achievement, risk propensity, explain early success pero dili sa long term. Unsa man ang early success of business venture? Kana sirong the first 5 years, no? Wala man gi kuan gid sa sa literature, wala man gid unsa ni siya nga year pila ng early success pero let's say figure out siguro mga the first year to 5 years, no, of survival. Pero sa long term niya, pero ang definition mo gud sa long term is beyond 3 years, no? Long term na mo sobra na tag 3 years. So probably I would say from first 3 years kung dili ka survive. So need for achievement, locus of control and risk propensity. This does not explain long-term survival. That is beyond 3 years lugar, no? So, right. And then, another study by Caliendo et al. This is what I mean by panel data, no? GSOEP is actually German, no? Socio-economic, German socio-economic panel data mo ng GSOEP. German socio-economic panel data. Based ani nga data lugar, no? The authors found out that openness, extraversion, and risk tolerance, no, positively explained kinsa to mag-entrepreneur. So, di ba, nakabantay mo, we're always repeating the same findings: openness, risk tolerance, and entry to entrepreneurship, no, and extraversion. Right? And then, it seems nga ang agreeableness, no, balik-balik gyapon siya. Ang agreeableness predict exit from self-employment. Kung sa man ang self-employment, kana bang magtrabaho ka sa imong kaugalingon? So probably this also refers to entrepreneurship and self-employment. Sa to pa, being agreeable and also nakitaas og risk tolerance, most likely mo exit ka sa entrepreneurship. Mo exit ka sa imong dream or imong desire to become a future entrepreneur. Okay? So this is Caliendo et al, no? Caliendo et al. All right. Next page. Okay. another study by Kasar et al. By Kasar et al. Okay. Again, this is based on another data, sample data. This is based on kabaning PSAD. Uh, uh, PSAD, basta ka ng A of D, that is Entrepreneurial Dynamics. Okay, Entrepreneurial Dynamics. So based on that data, no, based on these samples, no, samples, the authors found out that entrepreneurial self-efficacy increases the probability of creating a business, but increases the likelihood of an individual to create a business enterprise. So when we say probability or likelihood, we are referring, wala pa na nahitabo. Okay, entry ug exit pa man ta. We are still in the exit, no. We are still in the entry. Entry portion of our study, entry and exit. So, kung taas ka og self-efficacy, most likely, no, based on these studies, dako kag puruhan nga mahimong negosyo, negosyante kay kinahanglan baya kag self-efficacy, no, the belief nga you can do it, okay, the belief that you can perform a task, no? And also napo kay strong expectation, napo kay stronger motivation that will influence your goals in life. So na nga ingana pod ang dagan sa imong likelihood or probability of creating a business enterprise. All right, okay. So Brickman and Kim in 2015, no? This is a separate study in support to the study of Kasar and Friedman in 2009. This is the latest gani, 2015, no? Ano yung mga latest? The findings show that entrepreneurial self-efficacy facilitates the development of a formal business plan. No? So una kay self-efficacy, maayo sa kamuhimong plano. May ka magplano og negosyo. Okay. Ako wagi ko aning negosyo class, zero di ko ng mga business kay uya mga negosyo. May na ko mutudlo zero anong business, pero if you kanang gingon lagi nila, it is easier said than done, no? So, siguro wala na sa ako, no? Wala na sa ako. May lang istorya, pero kung buhaton, hindi nila may mo. No? So, another finding to this guys, entrepreneurial perseverance. Kana mo persevere bitaw ka, no? Bisag nahapay ka na, bisag wagi kay kapital, naning ba, no? Naning kamot gi ka ba, naning. You tend to promote engagement in business planning. So, puro sa nagkaplano, walay actual, no? So, mga tao daw nga taas ng perseverance, taas po sila og engagement in business studies, planning studies. So, mga maayo ni sa mga taong, kung ito ka na bitong, napa sila bitong doubt, na sila self-doubt about getting into businesses, kay siguro probably kulang sila capital, or probably na sila mga self apprehension, mga well, what will happen to my position, what will happen to my etc. Daghang kay nga blah 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 blah, no? These are the kind of people, no? They would rather be sitting down in the table making speculative armchair speculation. These are good for entrepreneurs, ngano man. Muna mga tao nga angay nimo hiron, i-hire nimo, no? No, taas yung mga perseverance. So, if we summarize all of this, you will find out that locus of control as well as need for achievement are important predictors to entry in entrepreneurship. So dapat nakita ng locus of control, need for achievement. Okay? Dako tag chance nga natay future in entrepreneurship. On the other hand, risk taking is correlated with business founding, no? Usually kining kung mag-establish ka ng negosyo, no, mag-put up ka ng business, no, kanang gitawag ni mag upstart. Kung ka na risk kan gina risk go kay na ba? So dapat lagi kay trait nga taas-taas gid imong risk tolerance or risk propensity. So it follows, di ba? It follows. Logical kayo ang findings, no. Dinhi makita nimo nga in terms of entry, openness to achievement, locus of control, okay, pwede na to sila mag-explain. But when it comes to actual founding of a business, kinahanglan yung risk-taking ability, no? Okay, risk-taking ability. When I say risk-taking, dili na siya sugal, no? Dili na siya gambling, puti o pula. Risk-taking is also accompanied by, gitawag din mo ni siya, educated guess na kay mga studies. Nag-research ka before ka nag-take up og risk, nag-take up ka. And likewise, entrepreneurial self-efficacy is correlated with business founding and planning skills. So, also, this will reinforce risk-taking. Nag-take kag risk because taas po kag self-efficacy, no? Taas kag belief sa imong sarili nga you can do it. So, this is positively correlated with founding and planning skills. Right? Overall, kung i-overall na to ang atong resulta, when it comes to probability of future entrepreneurship career, there are 4 variables that stand out. One is openness, di ba? Taas kag openness dimension ba? No. Openness to experience. Second, dapat taas ka internal locus of control, di ba? Taas ka og control sa mga factors or mga forces that influence your experience in life. So, magkinaunsa ang kalibutan, barog ka kay nga naman dako magtaas o taas mga locus of control. Okay, mo nang ga-predict nga posible na kay future sa entrepreneurial na. Another variable is dapat taas kag need for achievement. Diba? Taas kag locus of control niya. Dapat taas kag locus of control. What's the reason behind that? It's because open kas taas kag need for achievement, no? Dili lang kay okay na ni dili pwede nang okay ra dili na po labaw na po bahay gid ana nga mga plano. At the same time, people need to be risk taker, no? Kinahanglan ka og risk taking ability. Taas kag risk tolerance, okay? And then on the other hand, when it comes to business founding, no, planning and business creation, 2 variables stand out. What are these variables? Risk-taking propensity and of course entrepreneurial self-efficacy. So muni atong partial conclusions of entry and exit of entrepreneurship. Okay? So take note of this. Next time we will have another group of studies. This refers to dili na lang entry o exit atong tanang kundi success and growth of entrepreneurs. Okay? What are the various factors that influence growth, success of business enterprise? Okay, so that's it.